Okay, thank you so much, Bio. Thank you for encouraging us to do this. And thank you everybody for attending. Like I said, I'm Trudy Rice with the College of Southern Maryland, and Roz is gonna introduce herself when she gets to her part. Basically, we thought maybe this might be a good idea to do something like this for people who have a little bit of trepidation to working virtually and navigating through the remote written prompt and the remote IOC. So we thought it might be a good idea to role play and do a little bit of showing what we've done since we've come to the other side of it, because we were had trepidation. I especially had trepidation about doing it in the beginning too. And we thought it was something that was needed. So hopefully it'll help you guys today and be something that you will find beneficial. Okay. I think there's a little lag when you forward slide.
Hold on one second. All right, okay, I'm gonna do a quick brief stop share and gonna optimize one other item. Okay.
Take your time, Ross. Take your time. If you have to back out and come back in, that's fine. Yeah.
All right, let's see if this, yeah, it's not advancing. Okay.
There should be an arrow at the bottom that enables you to move to the next slide.
Okay, well, thank you, Bio. All right, there we go.
Okay, so that was my worst fear right there, just realized. So thank you for working through that. We thought maybe what it would be a good idea is to discuss the new hybrid status of NEDP. It doesn't seem like it's going to be going away now. It seems like even as we go through the pandemic and people are getting vaccinated and we're able to go back to college, working with our clients one-on-one, the hybrid status and being able to work virtually with our clients is still going to be a really good option for us. And our clients are really enjoying that. So that we have that option of doing either meeting in person with them or working virtually with them. We're going to discuss that status. We want to show how we introduce our new clients virtually to the NEDP using the Zoom platform, which is the one that we typically use at our office. I think a lot of people are using that, but we would love to hear from other sites that use something else. And we're going to review the features of the remote written essay and the written or the remote in-office chat component. And we want to give a little disclaimer too that CASAS requires everyone to submit a signed agreement form before administering the remote written prompt. You can't just jump right in and do it. You actually have to get trained and then sign an agreement form. I think everybody knows that, but we thought it might be important to just reiterate that to people. And if you need to know how to get that training and where that signed agreement form is, it's on the professionals page, and you can contact Janita McNamara from the national trainer to get the information about that. So we really thought that there might be some people that have some trepidation about starting the program online. I think some people have been waiting for going back face-to-face to meet with their clients and not really embracing this hybrid program. But as a result of the pandemic, CASAS was really quick to implement the remote written essay and the IOC function that was being developed prior to the pandemic. Seems like they just released it right at the right time. And at the College of Southern Maryland, we just kind of embraced it and didn't skip a beat. We actually were able to have 9 grads and finished up people. We were able to gain some people because of the reduced math cut score. So with many of the schools and adult education facilities moving to remote operations, CASAS provided our sites the opportunity to continue working with them without having to require face-to-face appointments, and we didn't miss a beat. It really worked out well for us. How we start out our clients, we're doing everything virtually. So we have an intake and assessment specialist that do their virtual intakes orientations monthly, and they include an NEDP presence with those orientations. Either Roz or I go and we explain the program to them. They're very well versed in the program. So after they assess the clients that come in that day or monthly to possibly go into the GED mode or the ABE mode or the NEDP mode, if they get the cut scores after they assess them or close to the cut scores, they send them to us in an email. So we get an email with their name and their score results, the dates they took their testing. Also, ABE teachers can send us information after they post-test their clients and get somebody that actually is interested in the NEDP. And once they get the cut scores, then we get an email letting us know their contact information. And we're able to contact them via email. And our first Zoom meeting with them, we set up a link to meet with them and send them things like we send them the CASAS fillable registration form. We send them a fillable diagnostics and agreement form. I'm very fortunate I have Roz, who is I call her my Obi-Wan Kenobi. She is the one that trains me and teaches me and comes up with some computer things that I'm not really as good at. And I think that the state has fillable forms too, agreement, diagnostic and assessment agreement forms. We send them in a link of their email. We send them an email with a link to the flowchart attached. We send them a link to sources that they can use. We send I think a LACES link and a written or an essay tutorial sheet. We also send them the guidelines for using the NEDP remote written prompt and in-office check client instructions. That's a really important piece of document for them to be able to peruse and see and read before our first meeting. And then I set up a first Zoom meeting appointment with them, and I discuss all the things that I sent them. I make sure that they filled out their LACES information. I make sure that they've signed their agreement. I make sure I get a photo ID from them. So either they take a picture of it, send it to me in an attachment. I go over the flow chart with them from beginning to end. So that's the first time they're going to get to see the program from beginning to end. So the flow chart's a really good tool that I use with them at that first Zoom appointment. And I discuss the remote written prompt and in-office check client instructions with them and answer any questions and just kind of do a familiarizing them with me at a first Zoom appointment where we get to get all that housekeeping out of the way, all the forms and the picture IDs and the LACES instructions and all that good stuff. Then we do that first diagnostic Zoom appointment. So really this is the second appointment. And this Zoom appointment, I have them log into their laptop or computer and a smartphone. They really only will need their smartphone if they're going to do the written prompt that day. But I always have them do it initially because there's always the option that they might want to do the written prompt, that first appointment. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I let them decide. But if you have them log in with the computer and the smartphone at the first appointment, you're ready. And I also always remind them, log into the computer with your sound. Don't use your sound on your smartphone or there will be a really bad reverb. So if that happens, you have to have them log back out of their phone and log back in without the sound on. At the first appointment, I will share my screen with them. I normally don't do that, but I actually pull up that web unit page that has all their name and email and gender and all that good stuff on it. And I have them fill it out with me. And then I make them co-host and they share their screen. And then we review and discuss the open diagnostic tools and the resource tab. We're going to go through all of this. This is just a highlight. What we're going to do today is we're going to actually show you screenshots of what those screens look like. And then we're going to do a video and show you an actual role play of Roz and I doing it. And I actually recorded the video with my phone. So in the beginning, it's a little bit shaky. So you might need Dramamine, but don't worry because it gets better. So if at first you're like, oh, this is too wobbly, I can't watch it. It does actually, I calm down after a while. So Roz is going to introduce herself and she's going to talk to you about the screen.
Hi, good morning. My name is Roz and I'm with College of Southern Maryland's National External Diploma Program. And I just wanted to kind of show you some of the screenshots to just familiarize yourself with what this is going to look like. So the advisor assessor screen, the advisor is going to click that green share button, and they'll get a pop-up that's going to look just like this, where the screen that they'll be sharing is highlighted. And then it's going to be important that they click the share button in the lower right corner. So at that point, because the advisor is already logged in, this is the page that will appear. And this way the advisor can enter in the data that the client is giving them, and the client will make sure and can look to make sure the information is in fact correct, everything's spelled correctly. So that's very helpful. And at one point, it's going to be important that the advisor designates the client as a co-host. And this is important so the client can have an opportunity to navigate and review the open diagnostic tools with the advisor assessor. It's certainly necessary for the remote written prompt and the remote in-office check. So being able to have that client as a co-host is going to save a lot of time. And certainly it's required in order for the advisor assessor to monitor the client's work to ensure the integrity of the activity as well as the program. So the advisor would simply click on the participants icon. The client's login will be visible in the right-hand side column. And again, the advisor is going to choose the laptop computer, and that's typically the login with the activated microphone. And all that advisor would have to do is to hover over that name. The blue button, the more button options will appear. Then it's just a matter of clicking co-host. And once that, there'll be a pop-up that verifies you made that client a co-host. So once the client is co-host, again, you're just going to talk them through how to do the share screen. And you would instruct them to go to their NEDP page tab they've already been logged into. They'll see a pop-up stating that their advisor assessor has activated either a remote written prompt or a remote IOC. And all they will have to do is to verify with a yes, and then they'll be able to proceed. So at this point, we'll go ahead and start.
Wait a minute, Roz, before you start though, Emma had a question. She said, any suggestions on clients with limited bandwidth issue, not able to use computer or smartphone at the same time? And that is a problem. And that's why I think that it will never truly go totally virtual. I think that there will always have to be that need to meet one-on-one with people, because not everybody's going to be able to have the internet capability to do it. They're not going to be able to, they're not going to really want to do it. I have some ESOL students that really like to meet face-to-face with me. They don't really like to do Zoom. So another suggestion I have, and if anybody else has anything, there is an emergency broadband initiative. I'm going to try to find a link and put it into the, I don't know if Doug has it or Roz, if you have it, you can get it for me. I have the HTTPS written down, but I think it was so fast with we actually provide that when we do an orientation. Our intake and assessment specialist has it embedded in the orientation video with the link where they can get an emergency broadband help with their internet. And it's worth a try. I'll try to get that link to you. If I don't get it today before the end of this presentation, I can get your email and try to send it to you. That's the only really suggestion I have. If anybody else has something else, they could write it in the chat for us.
And I've had that situation where I'm working with clients, and because they're also doing a little bit of the homeschooling, I've been flexible enough to say, let's do this remote IOC or the written prior to the children logging on. So there isn't that much of a pull. So sometimes we're doing it prior to the start time for school, or we're doing it right after the kids are logging off. So there isn't as much of an issue But yeah, you're going to always, at some point, there's going to be a technology issue, and it might not be resolved as quickly as you would like. So that face-to-face option is just that, it's an option. And I'll go ahead and we'll start with the first video.
Hello. This is going to be a video of a reenactment of a virtual meeting with a client with Zoom. Some of this we're going to condense and cut out. I've already had my client Roz log in with the Zoom link that I sent her. I also sent her the guidelines to operate the remote word written prompt so that she will have read those. She will have been prepared for that. And she's already logged in with her phone and her computer. I've already told her to make sure when she logs in with her phone that she doesn't do the audio for the phone and keeps her audio on her computer. So she's set up and ready to go. And I have it set up so that I've had her set up so that I can see her screen. But at this point, and she's going to be on twice. So she's there with her computer, she's there with her phone, and then I'm there too. So that's what the screen's going to look like for both of us. I'm going to welcome her. This is probably not going to be our first meeting. I usually meet with my clients first, and then we go over some questions and things that they have. But this meeting, I want to go over everything with diagnostics. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have her scan the room with her phone. She's going to use it to scan the room and make sure there's nobody else in the room with her. I'm also going to ask her to scan her desk area, workspace, to make sure there's no notes or dictionaries or thesauruses or anything written down for her. But at this point too, I'll let her know that we're going to be working and she won't be able to leave her desk. So if she needs to use the restroom for any reason, now's the time to go and do that. And if she needs a blank piece of paper to write her thoughts down, now's the time to get those. So you give your client the opportunity to be able to use the restroom, to come back, get a piece of paper and pencil that they can use for notes during the written prompt if they need to do that. And I'm going to ask her, I'm going to say, if you could, well, first of all, before I do that, Roz, move your camera a little bit so I can see your computer screen. A little bit more. Perfect. A little bit more, maybe. That same direction if you can. If not, that's fine. Okay, for this video purposes, we're just going to focus on her screen. Normally with your client, you'd want to be able to see their keyboard too. But right there, that's perfect if you can keep it like that. And then I'm going to ask her, do you confirm that there are no other people in the room with you and that all work will be done on your own with no assistance from notes or outside sources unless allowed by your NEDP?
Yes.
Okay, and once you have that verification, now we're not ready right now to do the written prompt, but all that's taken place so that when we're ready to start, we can make sure that all of those things have been done and taken care of. And one thing that I do when I start my clients, when I open a WEU for them, I start the new client. I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I share with them. I open up my screen and I share this screen with them so that they can help me fill it out. And I'll go through and ask them all these things and fill it out with them. I'll press OK. I'll get their username and password. I'll have them write that down and make sure they have that. And then I'm going to stop sharing. At this point, you don't really want to ever share screens with your client. You're going to want them to share their screen. I will, for the purpose of this video, be doing some share screening, but for the most part, it's going to be Roz who's going to do that. Once I submitted it, she's going to get her username and password. Now I'm going to make her host. So I'm going to say, Roz, I'm going to make you host. And the way I would do that is I would go down here at the bottom of this participant. I would click on that. And I'd come up here and there's going to be 2 Roz Rowans. And the way that I will know which one is her computer is the one right here with the microphone icon. So do you see that microphone icon there? That's her computer. And that's the one that I'm going to want to make host. So I'm going to click on more. When you hover over it, the more signs up. And this is Zoom we're using, by the way. I'm going to click on more. And I'm going to make her co-host. If I make her co-host, we don't have to keep making people host and not host. So it's easier to do that. And I'm going to say, yes, I do want to make her co-host. I'm going to say, okay. So I'm going to say, okay, Roz, now what you're going to do is you're going to share your screen. So if you look down at the bottom of your computer screen, if you hover down there,
Okay.
you'll see a share screen. But before I do that, actually, I missed a step. I'm going to want Roz to make sure she's signed in on her NEDP. That's really important to do that because once she shares her screen, she's going to want her NEDP screen to show up. So you want to make sure that she's signed in before you sign in with her. So go ahead. If you're signed into NEDP, you want to share your NEDP screen. Sometimes clients will have a hard time of knowing how to make their Zoom meeting smaller. So you just alert them that there's that minimize icon at the top. They can minimize it, get into their desktop, and open up their NEDP screen. They're going to want to have that opened up. So Roz, you're going to click that, hover at the bottom of your Zoom and see the share screen button, and you're going to click on that. Okay, so once she's logged in, when she first starts up, when we first do the WE unit, it's going to be the page where it's going to be all the information that we just went over together. She's going to verify that's right. She's going to click accept the guidelines that they've asked her to accept. She's going to click on that, and then this screen's going to pop up. And this is where I go over everything with her. So I'm going to explain to her the client resources. I'll have her click on that. I'll explain to her that this is going to be available to you for the duration of the program. And I actually will have her open up the assessment tips and computer navigation tips and NEDP plagiarism and citation guidelines and go over a little bit of that with her and explain those to her. And then once I explain that the writing tutorials are available to her for the duration of the program if she needs to go through that and the writing style guide. And then I'll have her hit the back button at the bottom. And I'll tell her that the generalized assessment button isn't set up yet, so she won't be able to access that. But we're going to concentrate now on the diagnostics, so to go ahead and click on that. And what I do at this point, I go over all of these open diagnostic tools with her. I have her open her college and career competency inventory and explain what that is and have her go through that. I have her open up the ONET and go over the directions with her and explain how to do that. The self-assessment checklist, the technology self-assessment checklist, and make sure she doesn't have any questions. And make sure I always point out too that there are multiple pages, so she'll have to click the arrow at the bottom to get to all the pages, and then submit it to her. And just answer any questions that she has about all those. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all of those, but that's what I do with the first appointment. And then I tell her, I say, at this point, there's a written prompt. If you're ready to do that today, we can start the written prompt today. Would you like to try that out today?
Yes.
Okay, and I let the clients decide if they think they need a week to prepare for it and use those writing tutorials. They can do that, but if they're ready to start, I always let them. So go ahead and push the back button. And at this point now, I'm not going to share my screen with my client, but for the sake of this video, I'm going to share the screen so you can see what I'm going to do. I'm going to share screen. And because we're co-hosts, I can just go ahead and share mine. And I am going to open up the diagnostics. And at the bottom, you'll see that it says Start Remote Written Prompt. And that's what I'm going to press. When I press that, it's going to start it. I say yes. I say it's activated and I say okay. And at this point now, I am going to have Roz share her screen. So go ahead and share your screen, Roz. Now, for the sake of showing you, I shared my screen to show you how I did that. You wouldn't have the client do that because you don't want them to see. You don't want the clients ever to see any of your personal information, like the client's names, other clients' names. You always want to have your client share their screen. You don't really need to. So she's going to get the message that a written prompt was opened up. And she's going to say, okay. And there's the instructions for the written prompt. She's going to read through those. She can check this the spell check directions and work with that if she needs to. And then I just let her know when she's ready, when she's read the directions and she understands them and she's ready, she can click begin. And she's going to read the prompt and she's going to start typing. And just in the interest of time, then she's going to go ahead and once she's done and proofreads it, she clicks finish. It's done. The written prompt, the remote written prompt ends. So go ahead and click finish. And then it logs her out. So that's basically how you do the remote written prompt. And at that point, after that's done, then I would just set up another appointment to meet with her so we can go over the results and go over her open in-office checks and make sure everything's done, or her open diagnostics. And that's how you would do the written prompt.
And just as a quick preview or review, actually, again, this is where just a screen capture. The advisor assessor will start with the remote written prompt, make sure that's been activated, verify that. And this is what the client will see. And they'll, of course, click OK. And again, this is what the written prompt page is going to look like for the client. That way they can take their time to review the instructions. And now this particular video is just going to do a quick role play. It's not as long. And
wait a minute, Roz, before you click that one, though, there was a question in the chat about, is it timed? And the essay is timed. There's a timer actually while they do it. They give them an hour and 15 minutes. Is that correct, Roz?
Yes, yes.
But it doesn't kick them off after the hour and 15 minutes. And I actually had a client take 2 hours to do his essay and it demonstrated. So time doesn't, if they go over the time, it doesn't invalidate their essay. They do say it's timed, but it's really not. So I'm not really sure why they even have that timer feature because they don't enforce it. So sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No problem. We're going to go ahead and start with this. And again, this is just a role play for a remote in-office check.
Hi, this is going to be a reenactment of a remote in-office check with your client. And basically you set it up the same way you did with the remote written prompt or with any kind of remote situation on Zoom, where I'm going to have Roz log in on her computer. I'm going to have her log in on her phone, and I am going to make sure that she actually is logged into the NEDP. It's important that she's logged in first. And I'll make sure she does and give her the time to do that. Sometimes they do struggle with this part of it, to figure out how to make their Zoom smaller so they can go into their computer. You might have to talk them through that. But once she's logged into her account, I'm going to have her scan the room with her phone and make sure that she's by herself in the room. There's nobody else there. And scan her workstation to make sure there's no papers or notes or thesaurus or dictionary or any kind of resource that she could use to help her. And it's important that she props her phone so that I can see her screen and see her keyboard. And then I'm going to ask her, I'm going to say, do you confirm that there are no other people in the room with you and that all the work will be done on your own with no assistance from notes or outside sources unless allowed by NEDP?
Yes.
Okay, so for the sake of this video, I am going to share my screen so you can see where I'm pressing, but you don't want to share your screen with your client because it's the names of clients are confidential and you don't want them to see your client list. I'm in T-Trainer, which is a really good place to practice this with other assessors before you begin. But if you can see right here's the Remote IOC button that you're going to want to push. And once I push that, the remote IOC, I'll say yes.
So the 10 HP makes 7.
And I'll say okay.
We've got two from each wall up there, and then the 10 each base.
And I'll tell the client, okay, I've activated the remote in-office check. So now if you would share your screen with me, go ahead and hover at the bottom of the Zoom meeting, and you'll see a green share screen button. Go ahead and click that, and you're going to share your screen. And when she gets this message, I'll tell her to go ahead and click OK. Okay, so Roz, now we're in our remote in-office check, and you're going to have the controls so you can start it. So we're going to go ahead to disaster preparedness in health literacy, and go ahead and click on the in-office check for that. And this is an oral one, so you're going to be pushing the record button. So there's a series of questions. When you're ready to start, let me know. And I'm going to have you start recording, and I'm going to read the question to you, and then you're going to stop recording. So when you're ready to begin, go ahead and start recording. Identify a natural or human-caused disaster that's possible in your area.
A fire.
Okay, go ahead and stop recording. So at this point with your client, you're going to go through all the questions that way. You're going to have them, when they're ready, they're going to push start. You're going to read the question, and then they're going to say their answer, stop recording, and move on to the next one. You might have to remind them to start the recording and to stop the recording. And you also might want to check the audio first before you do that. If you want to start the recording, do a test with them and with you, and then play it back so that you can hear it. But when you're done with all 3 questions or all of the questions that are on this page, you're going to go ahead and have them push save and submit. Just like you do a regular in-office check, the only difference is that they have the controls. It's on their computer. Okay, and the same goes for a written one. If she goes to health threats, I'm going to tell her to go to health threats, go to the in-office check, and have her decide which one she's going to talk about. She's going to open it up, and then she'll type in her answers. When she's done typing in her answers, she's going to press save and submit her answers. And then she'll move on to the next one until she's all done. And when she's done with all of them, then then at that point, I'm going to go ahead and I'll go back to the main part right here, the main page with all the client names, and I'm going to disable the Remote IOC by clicking on it. So I'll click on Remote IOC again. It's going to tell me, am I sure I want to end it? I'm going to say yes. And at this point then, I'm going to have her stop sharing. So I think I forgot to mention about making host, but that you do it the same way you did with the written prompt, remote written prompt. You go up to the name and you make sure it's the name that has the microphone icon, because that's the computer, which is what you want to make host. So because she's the co-host, I can switch back and forth from her to me. So because I disabled the IOC, now we can talk about the next meeting appointment. We can go over any questions that she has, and it's a good time then to set up your next appointment with her. And that's how you do the remote in-office check when you're on a Zoom meeting.
All right, let me get out of this. Little technical glitch. Give me a moment. Okay.
So while Roz is trying to bring up the PowerPoint again, I wanted to mention too that sometimes when you do the audio portion of the in-office check virtually, when you click start recording and you read the question and the client then gives their answer, then they stop recording. When you go to evaluate that, that competency, sometimes you cannot hear your question. You can't hear you can only hear the client. That's okay. If you are evaluating that competency area and you can't hear the assessor reading the question, that's not the important part. The important part is that you can hear the client's answer. And that does happen with me all the time. It's probably user error. It's probably something I'm doing incorrectly. I thought maybe at first it was because the sound might have been on their phone, not their computer, but I've done both ways. And so Millie says that does happen to her too. Yeah, so as long as you can hear their answer, that's the most important thing. It's not demonstrated if you can't hear you reading the question. That's kind of an important thing to remember.
Okay, just a quick review of, again, basically everything you saw in the video. The advisor assessor will click the remote IOC in order to enable that function. They'll get the verification there. It's there, and the client will see this pop up, so they'll have to click OK. And then it's also quite important that the advisor assessor, once the in-office checks have been completed, everything's been submitted, that they must go back and disable the remote IOC function. It's possible the client would have access throughout the day if somebody had forgotten to disable that. So it's important to make sure you disable that. And this is what, again, the client will see. We go. Okay. And at that point, we're basically at the end. And if there's any sort of comments, questions, concerns, again, put those in the chat. We appreciate you attending. And again, this was just a presentation. So for those that might be a little bit hesitant to jump into the remote aspects, and if Zoom is your preferred platform, we find that this is a fairly easy navigable website. So we wish you all the best of luck, and just let us know if you have any questions.
Trudy and Ross, thank you so much. Let me show my face. I really thank you for this presentation. What was going through my mind when you were going through this presentation was, how have both of you developed your skills? And I know with technology devices, things happen sometimes. How have both of you, or one of you, either of you, how have you developed your skills along the line where you're able to show others how to do this? Because I know that it can be intimidating. The way to do it is to get started. But there are all these things that can happen. So tell us a little bit about that.
Well, I tell you, for me, it was trial and error. The T-Trainer was most helpful, and YouTube videos were also very helpful. So we have a wonderful team. We have a wonderful group, and we practiced on each other. And we just helped each other get through some of the technical glitches as best we could. So there was a lot of role playing, just so we got comfortable, and comfortable enough that we were able to tell our clients how to work through that. And
I will say that, I am not computer savvy, so it was really scary for me. And being on the other side of it now, I'm really thankful that I did conquer my fears. I know that, I was fortunate I had Roz. Roz isn't as scared at learning new technology stuff as I am. She watched a lot of YouTube videos. And then the T-Trainer, we would get on, she would role play as a client and I as an assessor and vice versa. And we would spend hours just practicing before we even did it with a client. That all being said, when we did start working with clients, there was always glitches. There was always something. And I found that my clients were really forgiving, and some of them were more computer savvy than me and taught me a thing or two. They'd say, well, I think if you click here, you minimize that, or you do this. And I also found it very helpful if I had them take their phone and show me their screen, what they were looking at, so I could see their buttons and kind of talk them through what to do. So you do eventually have to be a little bit so good. You have to become so good at it that you can actually talk them through it too, especially if you have a client that's not as computer savvy as you are or you think you are. But at the end of the day, they're like Sharon said, they're very patient. The clients are very patient, and they work with you to try to figure it out. And there's a lot of support. There is a video on the professionals page, the NEDP professionals page, where Janita and Christine are role playing and doing that. The reason we did it the way we did it, and we had a video, we took our camera and recorded us recording it so that you could see the buttons to push. I find that sometimes when you record a Zoom meeting, it doesn't show everything that we needed to show you. And then Roz then, just to make it really easy, made screenshots of what the buttons look like. So I think the fact that this will be available to you too, and you can help. YouTube is a real big resource. You know, Roz would just go on YouTube, how to share a screen, you know, and there was a video on how to do that. So just practicing, asking people that do know a lot about computers, and don't be afraid if you don't know everything before you work with your clients, because clients are very forgiving, very patient, and they actually probably can help a lot.
Oh, definitely.
Thank you, Millie. I'm glad you said that, because she said screenshots of buttons and recording with phones. Excellent, because I tried a tripod, but I had to keep taking it off to get close. And then we did it this way, and I was afraid there was too much movement and it was going to make people crazy. But we didn't know how else to do it so that people could see what they needed to see. So thanks for that.
Yeah, thank you. I have actually attended a session with Trudy in the past, because I don't work directly with NEDP clients. The only way that I can have that experience is to participate with you when you are meeting with your client. And I do realize that sometimes the adult learners that we're all working with, regardless of whether it's an NEDP client or a regular adult basic education student, a lot of them are very comfortable with technology. So it's okay for us to learn from them. Frankly, they are very forgiving, and they realize that we are all in it together, and we're all learning as we go along in this process. So as I indicated, things do happen with technology. For me personally, I was thinking that the best way to do it is not to be afraid. If things do happen, I kind of, in my mind, go through all of the possible scenarios, all of the things that could go wrong. And so what? Your audience is your friend. They are not your enemy. They actually, you realize that you have something to share with them. So it is important. I would encourage you to, if you have not started this process, if you have only met with a client in person, it's good to get started. Maybe perhaps you can begin your first session with your coworker, with your NEDP assessor in your agency, and see how that process goes. And then we keep practicing until we perfect the whole process. And I also thought it would be a good opportunity, and I do not mean to monopolize this section, but I was, you know, as you were presenting, I was thinking about the digital literacy framework for adult learners that Maryland put out there. I know that when this framework was launched in 2019, the focus was primarily for for adult basic education instructors, for them to be able to provide a framework or a guideline for them to be able to integrate digital literacy skills. For instance, first of all, to actually know what digital literacy means, and how to develop those skills, where we identify 7 important elements. And I was thinking about that it's not only AB instructors that need to know about the elements of digital literacy. This is also important for NEDP practitioners. What we have witnessed today is, the process that we witnessed today actually focuses on one of the elements that were identified, which is the technical element. Just being able to navigate this system that makes or breaks, essentially. For you to be able to function in the society where we are right now, you need to be able to navigate. So if you're not familiar with that, thanks, Doug. I see that Doug already shared the digital literacy framework for adult learners. If you are an assessor out there, if your local program has not shared that information with you, it's very important for you to become familiar with that. It's not only for you in the classroom, but for you in your personal, professional life, because we all need digital literacy skills. So I don't know if anybody, go ahead.
Hold on one second. So Bio had asked if she could watch a remote Ioc, an office check. She came into one of mine and watched it. And the one that she had seen first, it was a client that was super computer savvy. And I told Bios that she was like the valedictorian of the class. She was just like on it. So then I said, if you want to see one that's more realistic, and she came and saw one in the afternoon when I did with the client. This person, this man was not computer savvy at all. And I had to really help him through it. And it was really good for her to see that even though somebody that doesn't have good computer skills can still do this program. And the thing that I love about NEDP is digital literacy is embedded throughout. It is one of the probably the most important parts of the workforce investment and the digital literacy. It just it ticks all the boxes. And I think that a lot of people forget about that. Some of the people that maybe don't know if it's a really valuable program, it is extremely valuable because it does workforce investment, it does digital literacy. It's embedded throughout. They learn how to use Excel, they use how to use Word documents, they have to, everything that they do.
Is another one that they'll have to create a PowerPoint presentation, use PowerPoint slides. So we are introducing them to some of our clients to technology they weren't comfortable with, and they were not in their comfort zone, but the embedded tutorials that are very helpful. Some of them are video, so they can sit and watch and know how to open up an Excel spreadsheet, how to create a PowerPoint slide. So they, we've taken them out of their comfort level in some areas, but they felt comfortable doing that because there was enough tutorials, and our job as an advisor assessors to help guide them through those. So yeah, I agree. The digital literacy aspects are prominent throughout this particular program.
Yeah, and if they don't have good computer skills when they start, they will when they finish. And that's another thing too. It's really good to help them to get into the 21st century, because the computers are what they can't even apply for a job without knowing how to digitally fill out an application. So there was something that somebody put in here about, if we missed anything, just put it in the chat real quick, but they said it would be helpful if someone could present a training session for coaches. I'm not really sure what that means, so I'm not sure. Bio, did you see that?
I saw that. If the person wants to, cares to elaborate on that, that would be helpful. But when I read that message, I was thinking about the role of the lead assessor in your agency. Each NEDP agency in Maryland has a lead assessor, of which Trudy and Roz are lead assessors in their agencies. So in the new program year in FY22 that will be beginning in a few weeks, you are required to actually do an evaluation of the learning needs of your NEDP assessors. Hopefully, sometimes you're able to identify their learning needs by conducting, sort of observing them in the process of doing this remote observation and other things that they are involved in. So perhaps if you have been able to identify their needs, if digital literacy, being able to even do this, operates on a video platform is one of the needs, it's okay to put it out there, to put it, to make that known, that this is a need that some of my assessors have. So we can think about collectively how to address these needs. So, but if you'd like to elaborate more on the trend, it's like a train the trainer of sorts. So that would be helpful. So, okay, I think somebody else put something there. I don't know if it was a next clarification. She said, coaches assigned to each client. What do you do in your local programs? Maybe I should ask you for your clients who, because we don't have a formal way of evaluating clients' digital literacy skills as part of the intake process. What do you do to kind of assess where your clients are in terms of their digital literacy needs? Ross, Trudy? Do you sort of, how do you simply ask them questions, or anybody in the chat can respond to that?
With our clients, and we do get to know them as they go through the diagnostic process, and we can certainly pick up. Again, I always speak about what's in their comfort level, and they do also complete, a skills checklist. We review that, and we can kind of get, as long as they've certainly done that honestly, we'll get an idea of what skills they might find that they might need some assistance with. And it gives us a little bit of a peek into, so we know going in, perhaps this person might need a little bit more encouragement with the technology aspects. But again, I reiterate, the tutorials that's embedded with NEDP are actually, I found them to be very helpful. My experience with PowerPoint and Excel prior to this program was very limited. I found those tutorials helpful, and it gets you that foundation so you can proceed and kind of venture out of that comfort zone and create your own slides. So we get some insight as to where our clients are skill level wise, and we just try to help guide them to the resources, encourage them to, let us know. We can provide them with additional resources, anything that can help them, especially along the lines of technology, because we do have the computers that they can use on campus. So they'll have some access to assistance there as well.
Thank you, Ross. Patty Reed responded from Project Literacy. She stated that they assign coaches to work with clients as they walk through the generalized assessment phase. This is different from the advisors and assessors because, as you know, NEDP is non-instructional. So they're able to assign coaches to work with clients. So
yeah, that's one of the things. We're not allowed to instruct or do any kind of teaching, but we can coach them through digital stuff. So we can actually work through, teaching them how to open a screen. And, you can do a little bit of instruction with that component of it, the logistics of it, but we can't do any content or instruction of the content.
Yes.
So thank you so much, Trudy and Ross. I really appreciate the presentation. My takeaway, I actually wrote something down when you were presenting, even though I know that I'm not working with the clients. You stated that it is important to disable the remote IOC function. Wow, I thought about that. I'm like, what would happen if that function wasn't, was not deactivated? That means the clients could actually have access to that system all throughout the time until the system kicks them out. So
in theory, yes. So we've been very conscientious about that. That is just something we do not want to see happen.
Thank you so much. I'm hoping that everybody has their own takeaway from the session. I have placed a link to the proof of participation and also to the survey that we need to complete at the end of the session. Please remember that if you have completed that proof of participation once for one of the training sessions that you attended at this VTI, you only need to do it once. You don't need to keep repeating that process. And also a recording of this presentation will be made available as soon as possible. So thank you so much for your time and for your contribution. And thanks again, Trudy and Ross. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Everybody. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Okay.